Hello everyone, my name is Michael Ajoris, and this is my long road through computer science. It was 2:30 in the morning, my code still wasn't compiling. I had class in 6 hours, my assignment was due that morning, and I'd been staring at the same screen for felt like forever. Every time I thought I fixed the problem, another error popped up. I started deleting code, rewriting my functions, watching tutorials, searching online, trying anything I could think of. At one point, I actually leaned back in my chair and asked myself one question. Am I really cut out for computer science, and am I smart enough to know how to code? I think everyone has had a moment like this in life. One where you're questioning maybe it wasn't programming, maybe it was sports, music, work, or another difficult class. That moment where you wonder if you're just not good enough. For me, computer science has been full of these moments. But looking back, these struggles have taught me much more than coding ever could. Today, I want to share my journey through computer science, the challenges that made me question myself, and how these struggles have changed the way I look at failure, learning, and success. When I first decided to study computer science, I honestly thought I knew what I was signing up for. What I didn't realize at the time was that my expectations were not going to match reality. I've always loved technology ever since I was a kid. I've always been deeply infatuated with it. I've always enjoyed computers, video games, and figuring out how those things worked and how they became those things in the first place. Programming seemed exciting because it felt like creating something from nothing out of my own mind space, which I thought was extremely interesting. Now, growing up, I was extremely right brained. I never really thought I was going to go into a field like this. I always assumed I'd be in something like sales, something where I'd be using my voice rather than my brain. But once I tried coding, I realized that once I wrote a few lines of code, I pressed run on the program, and I suddenly felt like I built something that was completely out of the question before, something that never existed, and I had created that. It sounded amazing, but then the classes started. The first assignments weren't impossible, but they definitely humbled me. I quickly realized programming isn't just about writing code. It's about solving problems. It's about thinking logistically, and sometimes you don't even know what the problem is in the first place. I remember spending hours trying to fix one assignment, only to discover I had typed one variable named incorrectly. One letter. That's all it took to break everything. I had spent 3 hours on that assignment with overdue other assignments just because I was working on that assignment. I didn't want to just Google the answer. Now, in hindsight, maybe Googling the answer would have been a better option at the time. I was stressed out. I was working through all my assignments, and I could have found the easy solution. But instead, I tried to brute force it with my own path. And I noticed as I continued in this field that that is how you actually learn. One small spelling mistake that wasn't highlighted or giving me any obvious warning, I would spend hours searching for it the entire time it was sitting in front of me. Now, I would never do something like that. But at the time, I was frustrated. I couldn't believe that I had spent that much time looking for something so small. But that was only one of the first moments where I really understood what programming was truly like. Sometimes the hardest part isn't knowing how to write code, it's knowing how to read it, it's how to think like it. Sometimes it's having the patience to find the one tiny thing stopping everything from working. Rewriting and rewiring your brain to think in this more mechanical, problem solving mindset instead of sort of tunnel visioning on the problem itself. That was my first real gotcha moment in the field in computer science. I quickly learned it would not be my last. These experiences taught me that computers don't care how hard you worked. They are only going to do exactly what you tell them to do. At first, it was frustrating. It was really frustrating. I had to come to terms with my own limitations. I had to realize I wasn't as good or gifted at it as I originally thought, and that I had to apply myself in my classes and outside of them just to learn these basic things that come naturally to me now in my fourth year. But at the time, it was really frustrating. And eventually, the assignments do get harder, but something else started weighing on me even more. As I progressed my path in college, computer science stopped feeling like just another major. It sort of felt like a competition. Projects became bigger. My students and my peers were just amazing, always proving to me that there was someone else more knowledgeable, talented, and or passionate about something that they're working on that you don't really have a great grasp on. And programming concepts do become pretty complicated near the end. Group projects became extremely demanding. Instead of spending a night on homework, sometimes I'd spend an entire weekend debugging a single project. There were definitely moments where I questioned myself, whether everyone else understood. I was questioning myself and comparing myself to others. I was wondering if everyone else understood everything better than I did. But then I started looking into internships and careers, and that's when I really hit a wall. Everywhere I looked were people talking about how difficult the tech industry had become. Layoffs, hiring freezes, thousands of applications for a single position or an internship. It just felt overwhelming. Even entry level jobs seem to ask for years of experience, knowledge of multiple programming languages, internships, personal projects, interview prep, and technologies I've never even worked with. It felt overwhelming. I wasn't just trying to pass my classes anymore. I felt like I had to constantly prove to myself and thus someone else that I deserved a place in this field. Sometimes I'd finish homework almost immediately and think, now I should probably work on a personal project. Then I think I should practice coding interview questions. Then learn another technology. I could always spend time improving my resume. I felt like there was always something else I should be doing, and that I was never doing enough. And honestly, sometimes it made me wonder if I would ever feel like I was doing enough. One of the hardest parts wasn't even the coding itself, it was comparing myself to others and diminishing myself. In computer science, it can feel like someone's always ahead of you. Someone who started programming in high school, someone who already had multiple internships, someone who seems to understand concepts instantly. It's easy to look at these people and feel like you're falling behind. I had to learn that everyone's journey is different. Everyone's perspective is unique, and the person who succeeds isn't always the person who started first or who knew most at the beginning. A lot of the time, it's the person who's willing to keep learning, asking questions, and improving even when they feel behind, and who's someone who shows up every day. That was something I had to remind myself of constantly, and I had to hold myself to that. Over time, I started realizing that the things I thought were holding me back were actually my greatest strengths and changing me for the better. When people hear computer science, they usually think about programming, but I don't. What I think about in computer science now, I think about resilience. I think about patience. I think about learning how to fail when letting failure was defined, when I used to let failure define me. Every project that didn't work taught me how to troubleshoot and improve my skills. It also taught me how to improve my Googling and my information grabbing, basically. Every frustrating night reminded me that progress always didn't happen quickly. And one thing I've learned is that nobody shows you all the mistakes behind the finished product. You only see someone's polished application. You never see the rough journey. You don't see the countless bugs, the failed ideas, or the countless nights they spent struggling on it. Today I'm still learning. I still get stuck. I still struggle, but I persevere. That mindset has one of the biggest lessons from computer science. I don't think computer science has been a journey about learning programming languages. It's been learning about how to keep going, how to problem solve, and how to think differently. The job market is competitive. There will be difficult projects, but there will be nights that nothing works. But that's okay, because I'm not the same student who sat at his computer at 2:30 in the morning wondering if he belonged. Now, when my code doesn't compile, I don't see it as a proof that I shouldn't be here. I see it as another problem waiting to be solved. And if computer science has taught me anything, it's that every problem has a solution if you're willing to stick around for it. Thank you.